Welcome to Stories Beyond Borders, the podcast where culture, identity, and personal journeys come together. I'm your host, Urmi, and in each episode we sit down with voices from around the world to talk about what it means to belong, to move, to grow, and to find home. Whether you're a third culture kid, an expat, or someone redefining identity on your terms, these are your stories too. Today, I'm joined by Daniela Bunoaica, a researcher, translator, and the host of the Translation podcast, whose life has been shaped by moving between languages and cultures. Romanian by origin, educated in French, working in English, and trained in Spanish, Daniela embodies what it means to live in linguistic multiplicity. Through her work, she builds bridges across languages and borders, helping story travels where voices are often unseen, and redefining what belonging looks like beyond geography. Daniela was recently nominated as a finalist by the UK Small Business Awards for two categories: Best Female Entrepreneur in 2025 and Best Influencer in 2025 for her podcast. Let's give a warm welcome to Daniela.
No, thank you, Remy. Thank you so much for the invitation. It's a pleasure.
Thank you for coming. And one thing that I always do in my podcast is I usually ask the same question, which is, what is your story?
Sure. So I'm born in Transylvania, Romania. I spent there, almost 18 years of my life. And then I started to study in France. I did study in French my entire life, so since I was 5. So I consider myself to be bilingual in French. I was always passionate about languages since I was a little girl. So I always knew that I was going to become a translator. So I knew that early on. And I took, as you said in the bio, I took Spanish in the university. So I studied translation studies to complement French and English, the languages that I've studied in school before then. And now, ironically, I live in England and I work here for 6 years now. So I have, lived in 3 countries by now, lived and studied in these 3 countries. I'm now doing a PhD as well. So never stops. When you have a passion, it never stops. Probably is going to take until the end of my life.
So how many languages do you speak in total? And can you say like are you fluent in the languages that you know?
Yeah, so I'm fluent in these 4 languages that I mentioned. So Romanian, French, English, and Spanish. And I also studied a couple of Asian languages. So I'm not proficient yet because I didn't have enough time to practice. But I would say 4. Fluent in 4, and I can understand Portuguese and Italian because obviously I, studied French and Spanish, so they're very similar. And then I studied a little Korean, Japanese, and Chinese, which I love. So who knows? Maybe at some point I will have enough time to learn these languages as well.
Mm-hmm. And which one is your favorite language if you had to choose one?
From the ones I'm fluent in?
Mm-hmm. Or even if you're not fluent in them, that's okay too.
Well, from the ones that I'm fluent in, for sure, French. French is very close to my heart language. That is why I, started at 40 years old to do a PhD in French. So I love it. I want to go back to my roots. And from the Asian languages, I love Chinese very much. Chinese was the last language that I studied a couple of years ago. So I took 2 years in Chinese and I loved it. I always thought that Chinese is a complicated language to learn if compared to Korean and Japanese. And it's actually the other way around. It's pretty easy.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Very interesting. I would have never thought that. Okay. And tell me about your childhood, a little bit about your, moving stories. Were there anything in particular that defined your, your story, your life?
Yeah, so I grew up in Transylvania, so I spent there my life up to high school, up to actually the university. And while I was in the high school, we had some exchange programs. So I spent 1 entire year in France. Even then, so it was quite a unique let's say, setup, because not a lot of parents, want to, leave you to live abroad. So that was great. And then in during the university, I actually moved to Bucharest for that. So from Transylvania to Bucharest. So I really wanted to, go into a bigger city, study in a bigger university. And then I was really lucky. I got 2 consecutive scholarships in France. So I studied 2 years out of the 4 years in France. And then I came back to my hometown for my master degree. And I've done this because, I always wanted to explore living in different cities, different countries. Of course, France was my, first option. And then I went back to spend some time with my parents and my friends because I missed them. So many years being abroad. And afterwards I moved back to Bucharest for work. And then, I was working in IT. So for the same company that I work today, and I relocated to England. And I think that's coming from, my curiosity of exploring like different places. I always wanted to live as well in an Anglophone country. So to see, what's the culture, because I was mainly, accustomed with the Francophone culture, right? So it is very different. The British culture is very different than European culture in general, very particular.
So here's my follow-up question. In what way do you see them different? The British culture and the Francophone culture, were there anything surprising, any particular culture shock that you had?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think Britain is very different than the rest of Europe. It's very particular. The things that I was most curious and also surprised about are how individualistic they are, right? And how peculiar they are about their culture. I mean, you can see it. I mean, from the, red buses to the little, black cabs and so on. The fact that they really stick to the traditional things that make, Britain great is amazing to see. Because I think that in Europe, in France, or in other countries, anywhere you go is a little bit homogeneous, so it's a little bit, the same. Of course, food is different, people are different. But I think, Europe has its own culture, and I love how Britain has kept their own culture, their own peculiarities, just a lot of little things that make Britain special.
And for someone who loves, France so much, or the language French so much, have you not thought of just moving completely in France, and instead of going to the UK, especially because it seems like you love it so much,
Yeah, that's a fair question. And yes, I was thinking about this when I was in the university and so on. But then and this might maybe surprise those who are listening to us, but when I had to take the decision, for me and my husband as a family, which is the best country that we want to live in from all points of view, not only from a cultural perspective, from a food perspective, from a, going out perspective, or all these social aspects. I also have taken into consideration how, well organized and modern Britain is. And I think that France is still pretty bureaucratic. I know that they are, of course, they digitalized almost all the services quite a lot in the past year. So I feel that they've done a lot of progress. I thought that for us, as a family, and also my husband, he doesn't speak French, so it was a little bit difficult for him to adjust. But realistically speaking, I think I'm closer to Britain's, way of doing things. And I got fond of it during these years. It was not easy at the beginning because there are also some things that are very different here.
And if you had to make, let's say, if I ask you this question, what is one thing that you like about the British culture, and what's one thing that you like about the French culture, for instance? What is it that you would say?
I think in France, I love, their culture of, going out, meeting friends, their social life in general, which is not exactly the same culture in Britain. I mean, of course, people have this pub, we have this pub culture, but it's not like a true social life where you have friends. And France is a Latin country, right? So you can feel this Latin social spirit. So I love that, and I miss that. In Britain, what I love, or in England where I live, what I love the most is the simplicity of people, simple life, like going back to the roots, enjoying nature. They love, preserving nature here. There are a lot of, forests, there are a lot of parks, and they spend a lot of time outdoors. So you don't see as many malls and shopping centers as you would see in the rest of Europe, because, they like to, spend more time in, to visit manors and to spend time with kids in the gardens, or, just to spend time in nature. And I love that. That brings me back to my childhood in Transylvania, in Brasov, in my hometown. We are so close to the mountains, and we have a great connection with the nature.
Oh, let me ask you this question for someone who loves the nature. What about the weather? Is it not always raining?
Not always raining. It is raining mainly during the winter, or between, I would say, maybe January and May, sometimes June. It depends. But I think that the rest of the year, the temperature is pretty okay. So we do get a lot of sun as well. It depends where you are in England, because England can be in, northern England, where you're, close to the border with Scotland and so on. But no, to be honest, weather doesn't bother me, not even the rain. I actually like when the winters are milder, even if they are a bit more humid. But coming, from a country, with lots of snow, like even right now, it's snowing a lot. It's like minus 15 degrees. I don't mind it. I would rather, bring my umbrella or stay indoors or go in a pub. It's a bit milder. So I kind of got adjusted to it. So I don't mind that.
Mm-hmm. We also have, I think, minus 20 today. So yeah, I think I also wouldn't mind having the weather that you have, because sometimes when you have so much snow and so much cold, you're just sick of it after a while. And tell me a little bit about your podcast, which is called the Translation Podcast. Tell me a little bit about it. How did you start it? And yeah, if people want to learn more about this.
No, thank you for asking. The Translation Podcast is my passion project. It's born out of, all the struggles that I've seen in social media and in different translator forums in the past 18 months, mainly related to the AI surge, right? So in the translation world as well. So I wanted to create episodes where I invite expert translators, expert interpreters to lift the mood, let's say, a little bit, and to show our network group and our, translators and interpreters worldwide that, hey, there are so many things that we still do. And yeah, that's how it started. And then I really wanted to be consistent and continue posting every month an episode, which I did. And I'm very proud of myself for remaining consistent. And the podcast has grown from 0 subscribers to more than 2,000. So active, translator subscribers. I have 8,000 followers on Instagram, which I'm very proud of. And I get a lot of comments, from them saying, oh my God, this helped a lot. And it's a mixture between, business advice, for new translators, but also for the ones who have been on the market for a long time. So it's a combination between business, mindset, motivation, mentoring as well. And by the way, I just learned 2 weeks ago that I won 3rd place in the UK Best Influencer Awards, which for such a niche podcast like mine, right? I mean, not a lot of people are interested in translation, interpreting, or languages in general. When we have so many influencers out there, I won 3rd place, and I'm so humble and grateful for it.
Well, congratulations on that. You're definitely succeeding in everything that you're doing, and I guess the passion that you have is translating in this way that the world is rewarding you back. So that's great. I'm very happy for you. And
can I say something about this? I just wanted to say to those of you listening that we have a great episode with Urmi as well. So please listen in, where Urmi talks about leadership and her background, and a lot of really good advice that don't only apply to translators and interpreters, but for all of you listening. So tune in.
Thank you for giving a shout shout out to the episode. And as we're approaching the end of this interview, what is this one message that you want to leave to the audience out there that could be related to, your podcast? It could be related to your experience with, moving around or learning languages. What is one message that you want to leave the audience with?
Yeah, so I would say, and this is your audience for sure falls under this category, but learning a language, a second, even a third language is so useful in your adult life. So useful, moving around. You and I talked about this in the episodes that we had together, right? That it opens so many opportunities, so many doors. And I would say, if you want to pick a hobby or invest your time in something, learning a language, no matter what language you're interested about, if you want to do it strategically because you're moving there, or you're just doing it because you love the culture of that particular country, I would say go and do it, and do it professionally, I would say. So if you want to, study a language, just go and learn with a teacher, or in a classroom or virtual classroom, because it will pay off. It will pay off.
Lovely, lovely. Thank you so much for sharing those words of wisdom. And before I let you go, tell us how people can connect with you. Tell us how people can find you. Tell us more about how people can find about your podcast.
No, thank you. Thanks for asking. So the podcast is called the Translation Podcast, and you can find me on social media and on all the streaming platforms. And I also have an account for my translation business. It's called DGB, the initials of my name. So DGB Romanian Translation. You can find me anywhere online.
Wonderful. I will make sure to put all the links in the description of the podcast. And once again, Daniela, I want to thank you for coming on my podcast.
No, thank you, Urmi. Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Stories Beyond Borders. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Remember, home isn't always a place. Sometimes it's a story. Until next time, keep crossing borders and telling your story.